Colleagues, we took the future of our career field in our own hands as we reviewed Joint Publication 361. Two of us here in the office took the time to do a MAJCOM level review. The last time this publication was published was in August of 2010. It was time for a new review. Colleagues, during this period we're going to go over three things. We're going to cover the processes by which the DoD uses for the adjudication of any nominations and suggestions we made. Second of all, we're going to go through and discuss the process of submitting those changes up through the chains of command. And the third thing is we're going to talk about the 9 substantive comments and considerations we asked the DoD to make from our level here at the MAJCOM. We're in a 10-step process. We're only on step 3. And the purpose and cycle of this publication review, the purpose is it's not a permanent document. It's not Moby Dick or Dante's Inferno, which will live on forever where there are no changes to the technology or the characters. There are changes. Things have changed. Our doctrine, our policies. We're re-entering a steady state out of a time of combat. Now, our comments are going to go back up to the Air Force. They're going to be consolidated with the other MAJCOM's comments, and then it'll make its way back to the DoD for some adjudication. But right now, we don't want to duplicate efforts. The Air Force has asked us to review, do a real deep dive, and scrub through this document really heavily. Well, we had 2 staffers do that. When we got our documents, along with it came a separate spreadsheet that asked us for very particular information. For every change we made or recommendation we have, we had to provide a page number, a paragraph number, who was doing it, whether it was me or my colleague entering these suggestions. Now, on top of that, we had to point out the change that we were looking for and some sort of justification for why we needed to have this changed in a joint document versus one of the Air Force's own documents. Now, on this round of review, we had 2 staffers reviewing them. One person with a little bit less experience, less than 4 years in the Air Force, and never really dug into a joint document. She had a different methodology than I did, with my 25 years of public affairs experience, as well as over a dozen years of reviewing documents. She used many of the same technologies or techniques that I did when I first started. It was very cursory. I didn't add a lot of depth to it. There was spell checking, there was glaring errors in context, grammar, some of the bigger things that I inputted back then. Now, I'm looking more at the content, what it really means, how these things can be applied. And our reviews were so totally different. She caught spelling mistakes and I didn't. Now, are the methodologies good and valid? Yes. However, both of ours together will quicken the pace by which the document will be reviewed and adjudicated back at the Air Force and at the DoD level. And when it comes around for the second time, the investment that we've made will be a better product for our bosses to look at. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all 12 of our recommendations that we made to the Air Force. Spelling mistakes aside and context, we're going to look at 4 of the 9 substantive recommendations and comments we made. Now, the first one was General Petraeus' quote. It didn't make sense. So we offered them to get a new quote because it just didn't make sense. The second substantive change we suggested was getting away from the word truth. The truth to you about this briefing may be that it's exciting, that it's not long enough, or another person's truth could be that it's boring, that it's not giving you enough, it's not training you or giving you enough information. Now, that's neither here nor there. That's based on your opinion. Now, the truth, the fact-based truth that we espouse in our comments up, is that it's You can tell exactly how long it is, who the speaker is, what the information is being shared. It's very fact-based. You can't debate facts, especially when the narrative from the other person is going to be incredibly different when dealing with public affairs doctrine. And the third thing is that we spent an awful lot of time in other sections, but one of the biggest growing elements of public affairs in the combat environment is engaging the civil and local authorities. All we did was ask the question, give us more in that section of the document. Colleagues, this whole process was not easy. There was roughly 25 man-hours invested by the two of us staffers. Now, over the course of this presentation, we've gone over the processes and the cycle for which Joint Publication 361 comes by. It's time. It's been 4 years since the last time it was reviewed. Now, we're only on step 3 of 10 steps as this goes around the loop before it finally hits publication. It could be another year. The second thing we did is we covered the Air Force's process, basically a spreadsheet where we annotated every bit of information we could about the recommended changes. On 3, we talked about the methodologies that were used by the two staffers who, in this office, made recommendations. A grand total of 12 recommendations to the Air Force for collection. Then we discussed some of those changes, the 4 of the 9 substantive changes that we recommended. We can't really stand by a document that we haven't a vested interest. And we made corrections that we believe are really important for the future of our career field. So, in conclusion, I'd like to answer any questions you might have. If you don't have any questions, it was a great opportunity for me to take a few minutes of your time to share the future of our career field.